we, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty. As to the third count of the information, unknown male, we, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty. As to the fourth count of the information, Anthony Huber, we, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty. As to the fifth count of the information, Gage Grosskreutz, we, the jury, find the defendant, Kyle H. Rittenhouse, not guilty.
Members of the jury, are these your unanimous verdicts? Is there anyone who does not agree with the verdicts as read?
All right, welcome back. We are turning to Kyle Rittenhouse acquittal. And who better to talk about that than legal legend Alan Dershowitz? He's the host of the podcast The Dersh Show and author of The Case for Colorblind Equality in an Age of Identity Politics. Sir, welcome to the program. I got to ask you, is Kyle Rittenhouse going to be on the Forbes 400 list coming up?
I don't know. He should sue CNN, certainly. And I have offered, by the way, to share my research against CNN with his lawyers. CNN, as you know, doctored a tape of my presentation in front of the Senate and defamed me, and I'm suing them for $300 million, most of which will go to charity. And so I support any lawsuit that he tries to bring against the intellectual thugs at CNN who persist in lying about the case. If you listen to CNN, this is a young man who came across state lines carrying an illegal gun and caused a confrontation and never had anything in his life that endangered him and had as being in where he was. All of those are lies, and they keep repeating them over and over and over again, even after the verdict. You just cannot believe anything you see on CNN or on CNBC or at MSN. It's just a scandal.
Well, I mean, here's a brief mashup. Listen to what the media has gone for.
That acting job of the crying, I can't even look at it.
Well, this is the...
That is one of the worst acting jobs I've ever seen.
This whole thing of, the whole breaking down and dry heaving in court, that was one thing that we didn't see from Zimmerman, but, making himself the victim.
The jurors saw what must be the greatest performance of Kyle Rittenhouse's life.
They put the mother right in that courtroom and said, bring plenty of tissues, because the jury's looking at the mother crying.
Yeah.
Is that stage? Is that theatrical? Broadway's ready.
The only Broadway there is Jeffrey Toobin in the bottom left corner being brought back on the air. But I digress. So in this case, all these things, I mean, he's got dozens of people that made dozens of literally false comments. What's the process look like for him going forward, when and if he should sue?
He has to make a sharp distinction between misstatements of fact and opinions. You can call him a vigilante. That's covered by the First Amendment. You cannot call him a white supremacist. You cannot say that he carried an illegal gun over state lines. You cannot that he had no connections to the town. You can't say those things. Those are defamatory, and he should hire a very good defamation lawyer. If he wants to call me, I can give him names of people who are representing me and representing others. The First Amendment does not permit malicious lies to be told about individuals. The First Amendment has an exception for that. And the First Amendment thrives on trying to promote the truth, not trying to encourage lies of this kind. So he can these kinds of lawsuits. He too probably will be sued, but I don't think there's much of a chance that the alleged victims here, who were found by a jury not to have been victims, essentially, can successfully sue. But I think the next step is going to be Rittenhouse suing and making these commentators accountable. Thank God for live television coverage of trials. You can watch yourself, him crying on TV, and then you see those jerks attacking him, saying it was staged. Imagine if it was a black man who was a member of Black Lives Matter, who had killed in self-defense and who cried on the witness stand. None of those people would have mocked him. It is racism, pure and simple. There's no way of getting around it. That's why I wrote my book, The Case for Colorblind Equality in an Age of Identity Politics. We have to get back to Martin Luther King. Judge a person on the quality of their character, not on the color of their skin. That's not what CNN does. That's not what many of the others in the media do. Everything is racial politics, except when it's not racial politics.
Right.
When the lawyers, in Georgia point out the fact that all the ministers coming to the courtroom are black. Oh my God, that's racism. You can't mention a person's race, but you must mention a person's race when it helps the narrative. It's so hypocritical.
It is bizarre. So, Professor Dershowitz, I'm going to put you down for a definite maybe for the CNN Christmas party. We'll circle back on that. All right, we appreciate you joining us, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.